Let's start off today's video with a question. And before you turn off this video, I want you to watch and really answer honestly. So, are you a confident rider or are you a tentative rider? Guys, my name is Rick and this is the HDVIBE channel. And I bring this video to you not from just some guy on YouTube who thinks he knows what he's doing, but I am a certified motorcycle instructor, certified here in Missouri to teach basic rider course and the skilled rider course, as well as a certified Harley-Davidson rider coach. So let's talk about the difference between confident and tentative and how you can go from being tentative to being a confident rider. And we'll get into it right after this. So that's right, we're going to talk about being a confident rider versus a tentative rider. And confident from the perspective of you're confident in your skill set to be able to handle your motorcycle in any situation versus being very tentative in some sort of situation. But before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of this, I want to show you the difference between a tentative rider and someone who's confident in their riding no matter what the situation is.
Well, this will be that grilling line I told you about. The grilling line.
So can you relate to either one of those situations? Where do you feel like you fall in that spectrum between a confident in your skill rider and tentative in some of your skills? You saw the differences there. And what I'm going to do is show you some things that you can begin to work on that I'm, even as a rider coach, certified instructor, that I'm going to be starting to work on here in just the next couple of days because I have my instructor update coming up. And I'm going to show you 5 things that you can work on out in the parking lot that will help you both at slow speeds as well as some skills that you should practice before you get out on the road at speed. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to show you on this whiteboard some skills or exercises that you can practice, and then I'm just not going to show you on this board, but I'm actually going to show you how I do them out on an MSF marked parking lot where I teach at Gateway Harley-Davidson here in St. Louis. So the first one is a cone weave. Now, how to set this up is set yourself back a little bit from your cones. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cones. You're going to mark those about 12 feet apart is ideal. And then you're going to have a place over here, just you can make a box with some cones, or you can just pick a spot on a parking lot where you're going to come to a nice smooth stop. And what you're going to do is you're going to start at this T right here. Then you're going to go to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, and then come around and make a nice smooth stop. So the key to this is staying in that friction zone. Don't look down at the cones, look up the range. Keep your head on the horizon. You'll be able to see those cones in your peripheral vision. And this is a great skill or exercise to practice to get warmed up, get used to staying in that friction zone, get used to keeping those head and eyes up, not looking down at those cones. And if you need to use a little bit of rear brake, you can do so. But once you get into this pattern, hopefully you can do that after you practice without using any rear brake. So here's how I did it out on the parking lot. So again, this is going to be in the friction zone. I'm going to be looking straight down the line at the cones, not looking down at the cones, but keep my head on the horizon, starting off here to the right. Weaving through those cones. Try not to hit a cone, don't put a foot down, and then look over your left shoulder, and then come to a nice smooth stop in the stop box, keeping all your tire inside of that, don't touch any of the lines. So this next one is, I will say, the dreaded U-turn box or the limited space maneuver. And this one, what you're going to do is you're going to set up a 6 foot by 6 foot tight turn from a stop. then you're gonna have a 20-foot box. You could set that out at maybe 24 feet, but ideally you wanna try to do these things even on the big bikes at 20 feet, because that is gonna give you plenty of margin for error if you would actually have to ever go out and make a U-turn either on a road, which typically the road lanes are 12 feet apart, and you have some shoulder, so you could conceivably have as much as 28 feet, but if you can do a U-turn in 20 feet, that's ideal. Also, this is key if you're in a parking lot or something and you have to do a U-turn, or you're in a gas station, you have to go around to a gas pump. The last thing you want to be doing is duck walking that bike and not being able to do a U-turn. So what you want to do on this one is you're going to be stopped here, a little bit back from this 6 foot. You're going to start here, staying in that friction zone. You're going to cross over diagonally and you're going to come around here, make a left U-turn, and then stop in that box nice and smooth. Again, you want to stay in the friction zone. Keep the head and eyes up. Don't be looking down where you're at. Try to stay in this lane. This is another exercise. If you're making a sharp right turn from a stop sign, you don't want to cross over into traffic. If you can stay within 6 feet making that turn, you're going to be safe in making that turn. And then come up here and make your U-turn. Again, head and eyes up, stay on the horizon, maybe a little counterweighting, stay in that friction zone, just little millimeters of movement, and turning your head looking where you want to go, not where you have been. And for goodness sakes, don't ever look down at the ground when you're making a U-turn, because what's that going to do? That's the way you're going to go. Don't look at the shoulder of the road, don't look at the curb, look at where you want to go. So let me show you how I did it. So again, I'm on the T just before the tight turn from a stop. I'm going to get set. I'm going to get that idle, I'm going to get that throttle set. I'm going to find that friction zone. I'm going to make that tight turn, turn my head, staying in that friction zone. Now I'm going to do this 20-foot U-turn, and no problem whatsoever. Probably did that in about 18 feet. Nice smooth stop right in that box. Simple as that. So the next one, this is just a basic skill that we all need to practice all the time as well. And this is just a quick stop. This is really simple to set up. You get out in a parking lot, you start from some point, you set up a couple of cones, and you say start at 12 to 18 miles an hour. Once your front tire crosses this plane of these two cones, see how quickly you can stop. So if you can stop here, great. If you're stopping way up here, well, there might be something that's going on. Either you're using just the front brake or the rear brake instead of both brakes, or you're just not confident in your stopping ability. Being able to stop in the shortest distance possible is critical for every motorcyclist out there. And this is a skill. Practice it at 12 to 18 miles an hour. Again, get up to speed. Once that front tire crosses, put on those brakes. Nice and firm. It's progressive braking. Press that rear brake, squeeze that front brake, squeeze, 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 press, press, press until you come to a nice smooth stop and hold it. But you're also going to be shifting down into first gear if you got up into second gear. You always want to come to a quick stop like that in first gear, not in second gear, whatever gear you happen to be in. And you want to get that to be muscle memory. And the reason I say that is because there could be somebody coming up behind you. You had to do an emergency stop because maybe there was a car right here. But now you got a car coming up from behind you. What's going to happen if this car doesn't see you? You need to find an escape route, either this way or this way. So again, you need to be in that first gear, ready to roll, ready to get back on that throttle, get that clutch let out, and get out of the way should an emergency situation with somebody coming up behind you after you made that emergency stop. So this is another skill that could be a life-saving skill that you need to have in your back pocket. So now let me show you how I did it out on the parking lot. And it goes something like this. I'm in first gear, and I'll probably stay in first gear through this whole exercise. Accelerate briskly, stop, press, 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 and I stopped in about probably 16, 17 feet in this case. So we're going to talk about is the swerve. When you're out on the road, sometimes you may be able to do a quick stop and save yourself from running the back of somebody, but maybe you have to swerve. Could it be to avoid a car, a pothole, or whatever? You need to have that skill in your back pocket as well. And so the way this is set up, again, create your starting spot, put a couple cones here, and give yourself a little bit of space, but not a whole lot of space. And what you want to do is come down here. You want to start off here. You want to come up here and you want to swerve to avoid, you could put some cones here, avoid what that obstacle might be, and then come to a nice smooth stop here, again, getting into first gear. Well, how are you going to make that swerve quickly? You need to counter steer. So if I'm going to swerve to the right, I'm going to push my handlebars to the right, and that will make the bike lean right and go right, and then I'm immediately going to push to the left to straighten that bike up and then come to a nice smooth stop. The swerve is a critical skill, and you should practice that both to the right and to the left. Again, coming to nice smooth stops up here and always coming into those stops in first gear, checking your rear view mirror, because then you might have to get it going and get out of the way. Again, if somebody's coming up behind you, having to do the same thing in a car or a truck. So let me show you how I did that out on the parking lot.
We're going to get up to speed here. Press right, press left, and nice smooth stop using both brakes.
Okay, so we've already covered 4 pretty simple basic skills that you can practice in almost any parking lot, and you practice those until it becomes almost like second nature. It's not having to think about it, it's just your body knows what it needs to do, and it becomes muscle memory. So this last one, this is the 5th skill that I would say you need to practice, and this is just going through curves. It may sound simple, but most single motorcycle accidents happen in curves because people either go wide or they don't see something and they can't make it through the curve because they're not set up properly, or they're going too fast, or they're not looking through the curve and something pops up, or they cross over the yellow line and they either hit a mirror from an oncoming truck, or they, even worse, hit another car coming the other way, or they just go wide and go right off the road. So this one, set it up in a parking lot or wherever you can, or just practice it out on the road. Start somewhere over here and you just kind of come up here, you get up to speed, and then before you get into that curve, set your entry speed to a level for this type of curve that will be comfortable, where you don't have to get on the brakes anywhere along here or pull in your clutch or slow down. You have a nice smooth ride through that curve, looking through the curve. So if I'm here, I'm looking over here. And when I'm here, I'm looking over here. I'm not looking just a little bit in front of me as I'm going through this curve. I'm looking as far as I can, because if you're out on the road and you think about it, there could be trees, there could be sun in your eyes. You want to see as far through that curve as possible to see what's going on in front of you. Try to run this at different speeds. And again, you might start off a little slower here, get up to speed, set your entry speed about here, nice smooth, and go through there. And then if you want to, if you're in a parking lot where you can do this, just keep going around and around and around and practice looking through those curves. And again, this is not going to be steering through the curve. You're going to be at speed, say 25 miles an hour or so. You're going to be counter steering through those curves, right? So press, 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 that bike will lean. You're not going to be steering, because what's going to happen if you steer that bike through a curve at speed, you're actually going to go off. If you're going right and you try to steer right, the bike is going to go like this, which is going to take you right off the road. And this happens more often than not. People just don't know how to take curves. And this is a skill, again, that will save your life. So let me show you how I did it out on the range.
Like this, we want to get going, get up to speed, look through the curve, accelerate through the straightaway. There's 20, slow coming into your curve, maintain steady speed, and finish up there, stopping right here.
So oftentimes I hear why people don't practice, especially those first couple of exercises, because they're at slow speed. People are afraid they're going to drop their bike. Well, my contention is, if you know how to use your friction zone and you know how to use your rear brake to drag it a little bit, you're not going to drop your bike. But again, it all comes down to proper control with that friction zone with that clutch. Don't let that clutch all the way out. Don't squeeze it all the way in. If the bike feels like it's going to fall over, ease that clutch out ever so slightly. The other thing you can do is protect your bike, right? So most of these Harley-Davidson Touring motorcycles, and you saw I did those exercises on this big bike, and I did the 20-foot U-turn box, which is really made for 600cc or less bikes, on this bike right here. What I have on my bike is motorcycle drop guards on the front crash guards, as well as the saddlebag guards. So the other thing I would say is put some saddlebag guards on your bike if you're afraid you're going to drop the bike. If you just have the front engine guard on your bike, it will protect the bike somewhat, but your saddlebags are going to get torn up, and that's what people are worried about. If you put those saddlebag guards on there, plus motorcycle drop guards, which I will have a link to motorcycle drop guards down in the description and a discount code down there for you so you can save some money on that. I'll also have a link to saddlebag guards that I've been using by TCMT for 4 or 5 years now, maybe even more than that, that I'll have a link to those directly and a discount code for those as well. Leave a comment down below and let me know, are you still think of yourself as a confident rider, or are you a little bit tentative and don't practice any of these skills, or maybe not all of these skills? But here's a little secret. Those 5 exercises that I just went through on the whiteboard and showed you how to do those out on the parking lot, that is the motorcycle skills test, at least in Missouri, to get your M endorsement. So those are basic skills which are required to get your motorcycle endorsement, at least here in Missouri, and it pretty much is the same in most states. So if you can't do those, and you have your M endorsement and you had to go take that test again and you can't do that, you wouldn't be able to get your endorsement. My advice is practice those, especially if we're coming out of winter like we are in the Midwest. I'm going to be getting out and practicing those before I get out and spend much time out on the road. So guys, if you want to see more motorcycle skills, go check out this playlist, check out this video, and go right up here to subscribe to the HDVIBE channel.